Welcome everyone to our webinar today. We're so excited to have you here with us. Welcome to Reclaim Your Future and Design a Career You Love. My name is Gloria Coe, a Bruin class of 2006. And I serve as a Senior Director for Alumni Career Engagement at UCLA Alumni Affairs. We're so happy to have you here. Today's program will be introduce you to a time-tested approach to align your reality to your career goals so you can move forward with clarity and confidence. We're excited to have you here with our career coach, Markel Morris, who will guide us through this program. I wanted to take the opportunity to thank our Alumni Association sustaining donors. It's with your help that we are able to strengthen the Bruin community with career programs like this. For some general webinar housekeeping, we will have the time at the end of our program for a Q&A and actually throughout the program with our speaker. So please use the Q&A function below to submit your questions and not the chat. We will be using the chat and polls for some audience engagement, however, so stay tuned. And we will be recording the event and we'll distribute the video after our program. So let's get started. I'm excited to introduce Markel Morris. Markel is a speaker, career counselor, and job search coach known for empowering her clients from a place of possibility and abundance. She has spent her award-winning career motivating and guiding people in search of direction and advancement. Markel received a master's in counseling from the University of San Diego and a bachelor's in sociology from the University of California, Santa Barbara. So welcome, Markel. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Gloria. I'll go ahead and get myself set up here and then we can get started. All right, you can see my slides there? All right, great. So hi everyone. Thanks. I'm really excited to be here with you this morning or this afternoon to share my tips and strategies for how to design a career that you love. And as Gloria mentioned, I'm a career counselor and my mission is really to inspire and encourage and motivate professionals to go after their career goals. It's not easy to shift career direction or to figure out where you want to go at all times in your career, but that's what my aim is, and that's the way that I approach the work that I do. And a little bit about my clients. My clients are awesome. I enjoy working with them. And what they are seeking greater satisfaction in their careers. They want to do work that matters, but also that supports their lifestyle. We all have bills to pay. And so it's great to have a career that you love, but we also want to pay our bills. My clients are high achievers. They have a lot of skills, a lot of talent, put them in any situation, and they're going to figure out how to get it done. And the most important thing to know about the clients that I work with is that they're really committed. They've decided to make a commitment and invest in their careers. They know that there are going to be ups and downs throughout their career, and they want to learn how to manage their careers throughout their lives. So I get a lot of joy and satisfaction from working with my clients. And from my personal experience, I know that shifting careers can be overwhelming. There are a lot of moving pieces. It's really easy to get discouraged. You get stuck when you can't really see in front of you possibilities. And so my goal with the webinar is to show you ways that you can discover career possibilities that you can get excited about, but also to stay motivated throughout the process, because it doesn't happen overnight. It does take steps and it does take a little bit of patience, but my goal is to outline a way that you can become more confident and knowledgeable about career options that are available for you, and so that you can leverage your interests and your strengths in ways that are satisfying for you. Because of the nature of this, I'm going to share a lot of great information, but some of you are going to have some very specific questions that we may not be able to go too deep into, but there will be some time for question and answer at the end. And if there's still something personal that you want to discuss with me, I offer a 30-minute career strategy consultation, and you can contact me directly to book that. You can find my contact information in the chat, but I'll also follow up to make sure that you get it. And I'm on all the platforms. You do a Google search for Markel or Futures in Motion and you'll find me pretty easily. So I want to take a moment to see who's been able to join us this afternoon. We had a lot of signups, but who's actually here? So I have a couple polls. And the first one is to help me understand who's here by career stage. So what stage, what best describes your current career situation? All right, so let's go ahead and see most of you are employed and looking for career advancement or seeking a new opportunity. All right, great. So let's go ahead and what is the concern that you have with your career at this point? You have an idea of what you want to do. Maybe you have a lot of career interests and you don't know which ones to go after. Maybe you have some idea what you want to do, but you're not sure how to find the openings, or maybe you're just kind of overwhelmed right now and you need to apply all the steps that you need to take to get the job that you want. Okay, great. So it's a little bit of almost even, but some of you have no idea. Some of you have a lot of interests, which is very common. How do you make sense of which ones to go after? Or you have an idea, but not quite sure where to look. So these are really common challenges that people face when they're looking at finding career direction. And I work with clients at all stages of their careers, from entry level all the way through experienced professionals. And while there's some different complexities in those situations, the process that you want to go through is the same. So I want to share a little bit about my background, and I wonder if you can relate. So I became a career counselor because I wanted to help people, and I've been doing that for a long time. But when I first started in my career, I was clueless. I did not know how to plan my career. I didn't know what I wanted to do. You know, sometimes I joke I was a sociology major, and that prepared me to do everything and nothing there. And, you know, admittedly, I didn't take advantage of all the resources available to me as an undergrad. And at the time, you know, I was around people, you know, the mentors, the people that I knew had traditional jobs, and they stayed in those jobs for decades. And the conventional wisdom at the time was just get a job, just get a paycheck. It doesn't matter if you like it or not, just, you know, get some money coming in. And that didn't quite feel right for me as a long-term strategy, and it never appealed to me to have one traditional linear career. So I've made a lot of career shifts over my career, and some have been initiated because I was bored or burned out, or I was just in a place that wasn't a fit for me. And other times I had to make a change because of circumstances. I experienced a significant loss, and I faced a brain tumor. And so all of those things really shifted my career in unexpected ways. But even though I had some challenges, as many of you probably are experiencing as well, I learned some things, and these were really important, and I want to share these with you as you're thinking about your career. I learned that I have the power to design my career to meet my personal and professional goals. So a lot of times when we're thinking about our futures, we get really hung up on expectations, but I really had to take my power back and sit back and design the career that I wanted to have for myself. It's also important to understand that you have the power to take consistent action. So we're the only ones who can motivate ourselves to take action. And so you can do that. Even if you don't really have clarity about what you want to do, you can take action to get that clarity. And then the other part of where you do have power and influence over your career journey is your mindset. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about what that looks like. So probably many of you can relate to this. If you think about the start of your career and how you got on your career path, is because maybe you followed a path because you were interested, or maybe you had a particular skill and you got opportunities and you kept getting opportunities and you're getting paid. And then you find yourself at this place like, how did I get here? How did I end up here? And it's not realistic really to expect that from the start of your career, usually in your early 20s, to the end of your career into your 60s, that you're going to be satisfied doing the same thing forever, for that duration of time. That's a long time frame. And so there are going to be times when you're going to have to make adjustments, and career satisfaction is going to come from making those adjustments intentionally and proactively. We're in a place now where career planning really is about self-reflection, but also finding a fit for who you are as a whole person, investing in your career exploration, investing in upskilling consistently, learning how to be flexible, and learning how to build and maintain relationships. Those are some really important aspects of career planning now and the future. So I want to give you a mindset tip, because this can feel like a really heavy lift to when you think about making a career change, when you think about career shifts, career pivots, it feels like really big. Like, how am I going to get from here all the way over to there? And so I like to use this quote because it's one that encouraged me when I was changing career direction, especially after experiencing several life-altering circumstances. That sometimes we think that we're going to be starting from scratch, but the reality is we're not starting from scratch. What you're going to be doing is actually leveraging and realigning. So if you thought about making a career shift from the perspective of realigning, think about how that might change your approach. It may change your approach because you'll start focusing on identifying what's working for you so that you can do more of that, and figuring out what's not quite working so you can do less of that. So this can lead you to more strategic career planning. It's the reality that you already have a lot to work with, and so let's figure out a way to leverage that. So what does that look like? We talk about passion, right? Passion led us here. One of the important things to take into consideration, and this happens quite often when I talk with my potential clients. When you think about making a career change, the first thing that people often do is to start scanning job ads. They start updating their resume and they start looking for jobs that they can do. Well, the problem is if they look for jobs they can do, they might as well stay where they're at. They don't want to be there, so why would they look for a replacement for a job that they don't want to be in? So a better approach is to think about how you can create a satisfying life for you. Think about and determine what it is that you need to be satisfied, to be fulfilled, to feel like you're making an impact in your career. One of the things that I like to do is guide my clients through career visioning, and I love this. Make your vision so clear that your fears become irrelevant. So I want you to consider this. What is the vision that you have for your life and career? Think about that. What would that look like? I'll give you some questions to consider. But typically when I ask job seekers about this, when they're embarking on a career change or career shift of some sort, a lot of times the answer is, I just want to be happy. I want to be fulfilled. I want to make an impact. And those are all great, and that's really noble. The challenge is, though, what is going to make you happy? What's going to make you feel fulfilled? How do you know that you're making an impact? So rather than, fleeing a situation, you start attracting opportunities that are a better fit for you. And so if you're here right now because you're feeling like you don't know what you really want, I want to give you some encouragement that your future is a blank slate and you can design it to be anything that you want it to be. And your career vision is sort of a foundation that allows you to imagine a future that's satisfying for you, but based off of the person and professional you want to be, the kind of work and activities you want to do, what you want to accomplish, and what you want to have. And so you want to take some time to brainstorm about your purpose, your goals, and your aspirations so you can define what that would look like for you. And there are a lot of different questions that you can ask for yourself. And here are some of those questions I like to share. So as you're visualizing your ideal career, these are the kinds of things that you want to reflect on. What would your days look like? Who would you be working with? What kinds of projects would you be working on? What kind of opportunities would you be generating? And I am a big fan of journaling and guided reflection, and I love to do vision boards. And I think it's, think about, getting a book, a notebook, or use an app on your phone, and for a period of time, just reflect on these questions and write down or record anything that comes to mind. And do this for a few weeks. And what will begin to happen is that you're going to start noticing themes, and you're going to start tuning in to what's going on around you. And you're going to find yourself thinking, wow, I wish I could do more of this. And if that comes to you, write that down. Or you're going to find yourself thinking, gosh, I really don't want to do this anymore. Write that down. And so you'll begin to start formulating a vision, a more clear view of what you would want to see yourself doing in the future. So I have created some resources that help my clients do that. And I call it, it's a career inspiration bundle, and it includes career guides that have worksheets and prompts that you can walk through to help you with this career visioning process. And I'm offering it to you for a special rate, and you'll get the link for that. But this is a really great bundle of resources. You can check in the chat to help you get started. Some of you like to work self-directed first or have a little bit of guidance, and this is a really great resource to get you started. And the other thing then with figuring all this stuff out. So you have your foundation of visioning, and you don't have to have everything crystal clear before you start exploring possibilities, but you want to give yourself some time, if you haven't done this before, to take a step back and to reflect. And then we want to move into gaining some career insight. And because figuring out what roles and fields and functions that would be a fit for you it's an art, and it's not a science. And I like to say that it requires some clarity, it requires some curiosity and intentionality. Clarity comes through action. So thinking about it is great, getting information and being reflective is really great, but you also want to take some additional actions. And so career insight, this gives you some reliable way to pinpoint options that might be viable for you. Because in this, you're going to be thinking about how you want to use your natural strengths, your skills. You're going to be identifying your values and what's most important to you, your lifestyle preferences, your goals, aspirations. All of this will help you determine what motivates you and your career decisions, and it gives you clarity about what's really important. So a lot of times as we're envisioning and dreaming about all the different careers that we want, and we start thinking about this, it becomes a little bit more clear about what really is viable for us. So I want to ask you to think about these individually to see where you're at with how well you know yourself right now. And you could just think about this, and then I'll give you some suggestions for how to fill in the gaps. So as it relates to your interests, how clear are you about the interests that you possess? Can you name 5 activities that you enjoy related to your interests? Give that some thought. Think about your skills. How well do you know your skills? Can you name your 5 preferred skills, the skills that you possess that you have a preference for using? And then think about this, career values. How well do you know what's important to you, what matters most to you, and how you want that to be reflected into your career? Give that some thought. Typically, when I'm working with career changers or people who are wanting to figure out what they want to do next in their career, the most important things to start off with, or most important areas to start off with, are your interests and preference, your career values, and your preferred skills. So those are some key areas. So how do you do that? You can do that again with some of the reflection activities, but I also like to use career assessments. Some of these you might be familiar with. Career values are things like personal gain, financial gain, leadership, competency, those kind of things. There are probably 50 different career values that you can look at. So some of the tools that I use are Clifton Strengths, and that looks at your natural strengths. Some of you may be familiar with that. Some of you might be familiar with the Strong Interest Inventory or the Myers-Briggs Inventory Type Indicator or Skill Scan. And I think that it's really important to get some concrete insight into your natural strengths, your values, your career interests, and your personality characteristics. And there are lots of free tools online, and those are fine. I I encourage you to work with a trained career counselor or someone who's trained in using career assessments, because it's more than just getting the data and information. A career counselor can help you to make sense of the reports and also to help you with integrating them into a bigger career plan. And so with my clients, I use a combination of focused and guided journaling and reflective activities, as well as formal assessments. And once you've given this some focused thought, as you work through the activities, you start getting a little bit more clarity. A clearer picture about your future will start to form. And as you do this, you'll start focusing on possibilities instead of obstacles. And this is really an interesting phenomenon. Once you start taking these actions, you have to trust the process, and you start taking these actions, and all of a sudden you're feeling a lot more confident, because not only do you see opportunities, but you see your opportunities, and it gives you some sense of where you can go next in your career. This is a tip that I want to share with you, because this is a strategy to help you build confidence, but also to discover your career interests. And then down the line, this is something that you can use for building your resume or updating your resume, building out your LinkedIn profile, and preparing for interviews. So it's really important, I think, as a career management strategy to track your accomplishments. And even though I'm well established in my career, this is something that I do on a weekly basis. I keep track of my accomplishments. I have a system that I use for that. You can use a note. I use calendar items. And then it's even better if you have an accountability group where you can share your accomplishments and then your goals for the week to help you stay motivated, encouraged, and empowered as you're going through this journey of career shifts. And as you start doing this over time, this will help you to focus on what you're capable of doing rather than the roadblocks that are in your way. This is a really important mindset shift. So I want to now talk a little bit more about career exploration. So career exploration is important because this gives you a reality check. This allows you to get some more concrete information about the career areas that you're considering. And it also helps you to better discover real opportunities. So there are different ways that you can do this. You can go online, and I'll share with you some resources that you can use online, but also talking with people. And I'm curious to know where you all are with this. And Gloria, yes, there we go. So what are some of the ways that you've tried to explore careers already? Have you talked to people who are in jobs or industries that interest you? Or maybe you used online resources to learn about careers, or maybe you've searched job boards to find out what's interesting to you.
Thanks everyone for your submissions. We're going to close the polls in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, so a combination of those. Quite a few are searching on the job boards to see what interests you. And some have used online resources to learn about careers, and some have talked with people. So I want to address the bottom one, searching job boards to see what interests you. While that approach is it's valuable and it can be really useful, one way that you can use that strategy is to search for sort of like your dream job. So it may not be the job that you're going to do, tomorrow, but maybe it's an aspirational job that you have. And by doing that, then you can identify the qualifications that you would need for that job. And then looking at where you're at right now relative to where you want to be, there's going to be a little bit of a gap. And that gap could be what you use to develop a career plan for yourself. So, and again, it's not so much of a huge undertaking to go from where you are to where you want to be. You're able to break it down into baby steps to start progressing towards a career that you aspire to have. So I think that that's a good approach, a good way to approach that. So let's see where you're at in terms of the types of jobs that you're familiar with that you have interest in. Do we have that one, Gloria? I can identify 10. Okay, so where do you stand with this? Can you identify 10 careers that best integrate your interests, skills, personality characteristics, and work values? Yes or no? Where do we stand on that?
Thanks everyone for submitting your answers. We're going to close the polls in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, well, this is a big one. All right, so where do you go to find this information? So thank you, Gloria. So for the most part, 79% are not able to identify 10 careers. Maybe they can identify 3 or 4, maybe 5, maybe 9. All right, great. And so a few of you are able to do that. Wonderful. So where do you even find these jobs? Again, I think it's important to be curious. Really, your curiosity is going to help you to discover possibilities. And one way that you can do that, leveraging what you've already done. So let's assume that you went through the activities that I mentioned about career visioning and getting career insight. So the career assessments that you take are going to generate some career possibilities for you, and that's a place to start. And then you want to also incorporate talking with professionals who are in career areas that are of interest to you. And you might also take classes, invest in your hobbies. I mean, there are different ways that you can discover career possibilities. Some of the online career resources that I use are these that are listed here: the Orange County Career Cafe, Career One Stop, My Next Move, Occupational Outlook Handbook, and I'll make sure that you get links to all of these. So this is just labor market information that's compiled that helps you to see what the jobs are all about, areas of growth in the economy and potential areas of growth in the future, which we have to hold that with a grain of salt because we really don't know what's going to happen in the future, as many of us recently experienced, or some of us have experienced several times throughout our careers and lives. But it gives you some data to really think about. And it's good for exploration, but it's also good for down the line when you're preparing or to update your resume, when you're preparing for interviews, updating your LinkedIn profiles. It gives you a great way to explain your qualifications. But this is a starting point for you. And the other piece to this equation is at some point you're going to have to decide. You're going to have to make a decision about what you're going to do next. And this doesn't mean you have to be 100% crystal clear about the next job that you want to have in order to move forward. There are going to be some interim steps that you may take, but you're going to have to make a decision about you're going to stay where you're at, you're going to go, and what is that going to look like for you? And then you create a plan, and then you take action. And if you've gone through the previous steps of visioning and getting the insight and doing the career exploration, you will have a little bit of clarity, a little bit more confidence to have some sense of direction. So this doesn't mean that, again, it has to be 100% crystallized, but you're going to have a better idea about what you want to do next, at least what you want to get more of, perhaps, or what you want to do less of in your career, some interests that you want to pursue or at least to consider, and you can put a plan of action together. And so this is a basic career action plan that you might consider, thinking about where you want to be, what kind of company. Some of you do have an ideal company. There's a specific company that you want to work for, or maybe there's a type of company that you're interested in. Maybe a position, and this could be level. Maybe some of you are wanting to advance into leadership. You want more responsibility, you want more complex projects, whatever that might look like for you. Maybe there's a geographic location that you want to be in. Think about what you want to accomplish and break it down. 6 months, maybe a year from now, or 5 years from now. Think about what your plan is. Write down all the specific steps that you might need to take to get to your plan, to achieve your goals, and put a specific action plan around that. What resources do you already have at your disposal? What do you already know? Who do you already know? What have you already accomplished? And how are you going to leverage those? And then what obstacles might be in the way? And obstacles may not be like big brick walls that you have to get over. Maybe it's, that nudge to get that certification that you've been thinking about for a year, or maybe it's just taking a class, or maybe it's just, reaching out to someone who's been on your list for a little while. So this is sort of a roadmap and a framework for designing a career that you can get excited about. visioning, getting the insights, exploring the possibilities, discovering the possibilities, and making a decision, making a plan, and taking action. And so I want to pause now to answer any questions that you might have about this and how it applies to your situation. So Gloria, can you help me to manage the Q&A?
Sure. Well, thank you, Markel. So let's jump into the questions. We have someone who submitted a question asking, when switching careers and industries, does one have to start at the bottom again and work their way up? Or are there other pathways into a new industry?
That is an excellent question, and one that is posed to me quite often. So my perspective and what I've seen work is that none of your experience or your knowledge is wasted. And so really it's about alignment and leveraging. So going back to my initial comments, so the idea as a job seeker or as someone who is looking to make a career shift, you want to take some time to really look at what you're bringing to the table. So what knowledge, skills, and accomplishments you already have, and also looking at what your aspirations are and how you can leverage that to get closer to your aspirations. It's also very important that you learn how to present your qualifications in a clear and cohesive manner. And that goes beyond just updating your resume. It also means how you engage with people on LinkedIn and how you engage with people in your network. Anytime you're changing industries or anytime you're changing from one role to another role, you are going to want to leverage not only your knowledge, skills, and abilities and accomplishments, but also your professional network. So if you take that perspective and you approach it from that direction, then you're not starting from scratch. You're leveraging what you already have.
That's great. That's a great tip. I have a question from Amber, who said, how can someone move from being a private business owner into a corporate employee? Are there specific nuances that you've noticed with these types of moves?
Well, I've done both. So I was a full-time employee, then I was full-time business owner, and now I have a hybrid. So I think that my response is going to be the same as to the first one, is really knowing what you're bringing to the table and having clarity about how you want to apply that for the good of an employer and as well as for your own benefit. And so to the extent that you can be clear and communicate that clarity, the opportunities will be available to you, and making that foray back into the corporate or an organizational setting will be a little bit easier. I can't underscore enough the importance and value of your professional relationships, because people that you know who know your work can neutralize some of the objections that employers will have. I mean, let's be honest, the reality is if you've been a business owner and you want to re-enter into an organization, people are going to wonder why. And they're going to wonder, are you just coming here because you need to get some income really fast, and then as soon as you get stabilized, you're going to bail out? That may not be the case, but that's the assumption. And so you have to be able to address those objections. And one of the best ways to do that is to have someone in your network make the introductions.
That's a great tip. This is actually a question in regards to that connection piece. Keel asks, let's say I know which company I want to work for and what job opening I think I'd be a good fit for. How do I make connections and do informational interviews when I don't know anyone who works at the company?
Well, sometimes you have to get creative there. So what my best advice with that is to start with the people that you know and sort of build out. We've talked about, or maybe some of you are, in my generation, you've heard, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon or what have you. We're all 6 degrees of, but I think LinkedIn is a really important resource because you can see in real time who you're connected with. And so you may not have a direct connection with that person, but you may have a second or third connection. And if you don't right now have a connection to that person, then that's an aspiration that you may have. And so then the question is less, I don't have any connections, but it's about, I don't have any connections yet. And so you want to come up with a strategy for moving you closer to that person. So maybe you don't know anybody who is in that role in that company, but maybe you know someone who's in a role, a similar role in another similar company, because people move around a lot and you just never know who knows who. Think about using your alumni resources and tapping into the alumni network. You might find someone in the alumni network that works there. And then, Google is your friend. Use the search feature. Type in, the job, type in the company, and you might find that someone did a talk at a conference or what have you, and you can find somebody who is connected to that person. And if you know that you want that job and you know that you want to work for that company, just be prepared when your opportunity presents itself. Now, I can use myself as an example. There was a particular role that I wanted, and I was very specific. I knew where I wanted to work, or where I wanted to have this opportunity and what it was. I didn't see any openings, but I attended a professional conference, and there was someone on my list that I did not know, but I wanted to reach out for an informational interview because I had heard of this person's name. I attended the conference, and someone that I met at the conference said, hey, there's a person I want to introduce you to. And the person that they introduced me to was a person that was on my list. And so I had an opportunity to talk with this person, and I said, I want that opportunity there. And 3 months later, that person emailed me and said, hey, you said you wanted me to let you know if there was an opportunity. We have one. Are you interested? So sometimes you have to play the long game. You have to be patient, but to the extent that you're clear and the extent that you do what you can in the meantime, the opportunities will eventually present themselves.
I love that. And I love that you added the word yet, because it changes the mindset. It changes the fact that things don't always have to stay the same. And so love that you added that. I have a question here actually asking about assessments. Do you find looking at old assessments useful, even if they're 15 to 20 years old?
I love that question. I was actually thinking about that this morning, about career assessments, because people might have done career assessments. I've done career assessments. I think they can be interesting and to look back and reflect on what your interests, your values might have been at some point in the past. There are some parts of who we are that are not going to change. Our personalities don't change, but how we express those in our lives and in our work may change. I think it's useful and valuable to take career assessments periodically. So if it's been 15 or 20 years since you've done them, I think it might be useful to get a more current view of where you're at right now. If nothing's changed, great. But I imagine that there's probably going to be some changes that have taken place, but it's good to take stock of where you're at right now.
Great. Another question is, how do you deal with career burnout for late career individuals looking for something to recharge them?
Well, there's not one thing. I think it really kind of depends on what is causing the burnout. And I've experienced burnout, and I've worked with clients who have been who are facing burnout, and I think there's multiple approaches. If you're able to, take a break. Use your sick time and just kind of take a day off every now and then, just to focus on you and your self-care. Try it, depending on what's going on in your experience, in your situation that's causing the burnout. If the burnout is because your job is more than you can handle, then you want to come up with a way to perhaps draw boundaries around your workload. If your burnout is coming because you have external things happening, we'll take care of those external things happening. If the burnout is coming because the work that you're doing is just not interesting to you anymore, give yourself the opportunity to get clarity about what you would like to be doing more of and what you'd like to be doing less of. And sometimes you might have to engage your supervisor or whoever is your leader to come up with a strategy for maybe making some adjustments in your work. But I think the strategies that I talked about in this will help you no matter what you're experiencing. If you're experiencing burnout, if you're just not interested anymore, if you're really just eager to find something else, take a step back, reflect on what it is that you really want, explore the possibilities, build your network, come up with some goals and strategies and an action plan, and take action.
Great. I have someone who asked a little two-part question. How do you see and characterize the concept of career fit within the realm of career exploration and career development? And then as a follow-up, how does cultural background play a role in career fit?
Well, I think all of that is important. So career fit, what does that mean? Again, if going back to my initial comments, we get to decide what career success and career fit means to us. And so if there are components of your culture that are very important, you get to decide how you want that to be integrated and reflected into the work that you do. Okay, so it's important for a person, to have clarity about what it is for them that will make their careers personally satisfying and meaningful. And they get to integrate all of the different components and elements. And keeping in mind, as you're thinking about your career, part of that is your job, what you do every day to make a living. But there's also your calling and your purpose, and that may be incorporated into your actual job, but it could be associated with volunteering or community activities that you're involved with, things that you do for personal enrichment. So we're here talking about career, but it's really about creating a life, and your job and your career is just a part of that. So if you think about it from that perspective, then you get to decide what it looks like for you, and then you put your plan of action together to get as close to that as possible. And I see a question there about brain surgeries, and I want to address that because I'm also a brain tumor survivor. And so I had that experience where I had to sit out of the workforce for a little bit of time and re-enter into the workforce after that. So I think it's filling the gap in your work history and re-entering the job market, as well as changing industries. Again, as I mentioned, I've worked with people throughout their careers and all stages of careers, and I'm repeating myself because really the framework is the same for all of this. So as someone who might have had some complexities in your career progression, then really your job is to be able to communicate as clearly as possible your career goals and aspirations, and how well you are going to help an employer to meet their needs. So to demonstrate the fit between what you want and have to offer and what the employer needs to get their business done. And if you rely or take an expansive approach and you look at how you can formulate your resume, but you're also looking at a strategy for getting visibility through online platforms, through a network. We're going to probably be going back in person pretty soon, and through your interviews and through your professional relationships. And to the extent that you can present a cohesive message, the better able you will be to enter the job market, as well as to change industries or roles.
That's great. And I think that actually ties into some of our participants have sent in questions about, the best way of re-entering the workforce, whether they're in they're over 50 and changing careers, and, how do you, reframe and re-enter into the workforce when maybe you've been, the people you'll be working with are 20 to 30 years younger.
That can be tricky. I think as I can share from my experience. So everything that I'm sharing with you, if it sounds kind of academic or what have you, I have done this myself. So I have been through many of the same challenges that my clients have been through, where I faced having to separate from the workforce for a period of time and having a gap on my resume and having to re-enter the job market. And then as a business owner, I'm constantly having to sell my qualifications and branding and that. And I have the resources that I created and the resources I use, I've done for myself. So when I've been at a crossroads, I take a step back, like what's going on here? And what do I really want moving forward? And I do the reflection, what have I learned in the last year? And having to recall this at once is really hard. And that's why I say it's important to track your accomplishments on an ongoing basis. And so if you do it on an ongoing basis, you have constant input into your preferences and your strengths and your accomplishments. I think sometimes we get hung up on some of the details. There are always going to be a range and variety of people in the workforce with you at the same time. Younger, older, coming from various backgrounds, coming from various sensibilities. And so it's important that we develop our ability to relate to people and take an interest in people who might be a little bit different from you, and find common ground with people who may be at different stages than you are. And as you're able to do that, you're building bridges that are going to enable you to take advantage of opportunities. Now, keep in mind, this is not going to happen overnight. This is not going to happen overnight. This is not a one and done kind of a thing. These are ongoing strategies that you have to take. So I encourage you to start so that you can start building momentum. And if you identify that there are some gaps in your career, maybe you don't know the right people that you think, or maybe you don't have the right experiences, now is a perfect time to start taking steps towards that.
Great. We have actually a very enthusiastic attendee who's already signed up for your bundle and was wondering, how does she go about scheduling a session with you?
Okay, so you might have gotten a follow-up message that has my contact information, but you can email me directly, and at the end we'll give you a link that will have a direct link to my schedule, and then you can book that session.
Fantastic. And Markel, I want to do a time check with you. I know you have a couple more slides to go. Do you have time for maybe one more question?
Mm-hmm. I do.
Great. So we have someone who's asked, they are looking at applicants online, a job online, and wanting to apply, but they're seeing that there may be a degree that, other people are applying with master's degree and they only have a BA. Is it worth it for this person to apply? Because it could be discouraging to see that other people may have other degrees. Should they be applying for this job anyway?
Well, it depends on, that's a hard question to ask without having more context, because it really depends on the position. But one way that you can determine if it's worth your effort or not is through, I guess, your back channel intelligence, if you will. So if you can do some research on the people who are in those roles in those organizations and see what their background is. So if you see that people who typically have that job have a bachelor's degree, then maybe it's worthwhile. You also need to assess how badly you actually want that job. If it's a job that you really want, then why not apply? It's not gonna harm you. But there are some, there are some job postings where I think many, just like our resume is kind of like the best picture of us, employers have their job listings and to an extent their wish list. They want all of these attributes, but on the outside, it's really hard to know what exactly they want as their non-negotiables, in their candidates. So I think that, again, you want to take the long view with applying to jobs, and to the best of your ability, you want to leverage your network to get that insight. And I'm happy to talk with people offline. Some of the questions are getting a little bit very specific, and I'm happy to talk with you offline about your personal situation so that I can give you some more specific strategies and tips within that context. So, we've shared how to get in contact with me, and I would welcome you doing that.
Great. We did have someone who was asking about your slides and how to access them, but I know that we'll do that in the follow-up. So if you want to finish your presentation, we can do that, and then we can get to our other questions if we have time.
All right, great. Yes. So you'll get a link to resource information. It'll have, everything that I talked about there in that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, and I want to just really briefly, in the time that we have left, leave off with some encouragement. So a lot of making a career change or career shift, as you can tell, there's a lot of moving pieces. And for some of you, for many of us, we have some complexities in our situation. And so it's an undertaking. It can feel like an undertaking. And so our mindset is really important. And so I encourage people to really lean in and leverage their community. The UCLA alumni community is one of the communities that you're all a part of that can provide you with some really great connections and some insight and even some coaching. And so I think that's really important. Another part that you can't be overlooked is taking care of yourself, your mind, body, and spirit. So a part of transitioning in your career, or even managing your career, is really tuning into what your mind, body, and spirit needs and taking care of that. We talked about tracking your accomplishments and visualizing, journaling as ways to stay focused, as ways to build your confidence, and as ways to help you get some direction. So those are some techniques. And I love this quote to end off with: sometimes the smallest step in the right direction ends up being the biggest step of your life. Tiptoe if you must, but take that step. And so for some of you, that step might be to reach out and to a coach and ask a question. It might be to reach out to a colleague for an informational interview. It might be to reach out for someone as a mentor. So there's something in the chat that I'm not sure. She asked a question after I requested for the third time that she do so. Did we get to this person's question? Are we good?
Yes, we've answered the question. Thank you for your answer. And thank you, Jennifer, for asking the question.
All right, great. So oftentimes people get stuck in all of the details and all of the moving pieces of launching a career transition or getting alignment in your career. And so I wanted to encourage you that you don't have to do everything all at once. Just break it down and take one step at a time. And just take one step at a time. And then as you take that step, take another step. I would encourage you to go back to the foundation of really getting some insight. And this doesn't have to take years to do. It may just be a couple weeks, because I understand and I appreciate that some of you may need to be working and you don't have a whole lot of time to do all of this. But it's really just about setting a foundation, a solid foundation of insight and a solid foundation of vision that you can launch from. And it feels a little bit counterintuitive, but if you trust the process and you implement these strategies, you'll be able to move your career forward in a way that's satisfying for you. And then finally, we will go send you a follow-up message that has all of the information that I shared with you today, and a way to kind of get in touch with me if you'd like to. And your next steps, just start. Just start. I encourage you just to take that next step. You're not going to have 100% clarity. And if you've done all of these things and you're still not sure how to move the ball forward, I would ask you to do a gut check and to ask yourself how clear you are about your target and how consistent you've been with your strategy. And if you think that there's some room to move around with that, some areas for growth and development, then that may be where you would want to focus some time. And finally, I would ask for you to just think about where, based off of what you heard, what is one action that you could take next? For some of you, it may be defining what your career goal is. For some of you, that might be defining your skills, your interests, and your values. For some of you, that might be exploring career possibilities. And for some of you, that might be making a plan for next steps. And I appreciate your time this afternoon, and I look forward to connecting with you in the future. And I wish you all the best of luck as you embark on this journey of designing a career that you love.
Great. Thank you so much, Markel, for your time today, for your thorough answers. And we look forward to being able to serve our alumni with other webinars. And you can also find Markel as part of our Career Coaches Network so that you can connect with her. But you will be receiving an email with all the links that we've shared today and more information about how to connect with Markel in the future. So I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Enjoy your Thursday and the rest of your week. We're so thankful that you came today.
Thank you.
Thank you, and go Bruins.
Bye.